name is Ed Hawthorne. I'm the president of the Western Connecticut Area Labor Federation. Along with the Eastern Connecticut Area Labor Federation, we welcome you to our virtual celebration of Labor Day. The following stories you are about to hear are reflections of struggles and celebrations of triumphs of workers in Connecticut, both past and present. Know that the reason why we have this long weekend and even a weekend in general is because workers struggled and fought for it. Our hope is, after hearing these stories, you all reflect on the true meaning of Labor Day and educate others that it's not about the long weekend or an end of summer, but about the celebration of the American workforce and the American labor movement. Thank you, and please enjoy.
This plant in Middletown's industrial north end was the site of a pivotal battle between labor and management back in the 1930s. The battle pitted James H. Rand, president of the Remington Rand Typewriter Corporation, against some 1,600 striking workers. The May 1936 Remington Rand strike in Middletown was a pivotal event in modern labor history. It saw company president James Rand introduce a draconian strike-breaking plan known as the Mohawk Valley Formula. It used traditional strong-arm tactics as well as propaganda to break the strike. It was a plan based on both blackjacks and briefcases. The strike was also the birthplace of mass media anti-labor propaganda, and the strategies and tactics used then are still being used today. The ads of Rand and his shill committee show how Rand used advertising to frame the strike issues. A May 23rd Middletown press ad set the tone of the campaign, alleging that outside agitators, i.e. striking employees, were threatening the harmony of the community and the employees' right to work. The ads would play the patriotic card, saying strikebreakers were exercising their, quote, constitutional rights of free thinking and unmolested action in wanting to return to work. On June 30th, ads in the Hartford Courant and the Middletown Press pulled out all the propaganda stops to get workers back on the job. It extolled the concept of harmony, saying that all loyal workers can work together in perfect harmony without professional interference by paid agitators. Other ads played the American card and raised the specter of communism. The outside agitators became Russian communists. In line with the formula, Rand successfully exploited the fear of violence to trigger a police crackdown on the strikers. Some 25 millwrights arrived at the plant July 26 to begin dismantling equipment and packaging it for shipment. When they arrived, there were 60 to 70 policemen on duty instead of the usual 10 or 11. The millwrights gave the strikers the elbow as they made their way through the picket line. However, they weren't millwrights. They were professional strikebreakers employed by Berghoff. The strikebreakers themselves committed violent acts which were blamed on the strikers. Once things turned violent, the reaction of government officials and police was swift against the strikers. Rand's repeated pleas for police protection paid off. The strike would be broken. The plant would close in 1940, leaving some 1,600 people out of work. The National Association of Manufacturers, an industry group, would take the strike-breaking plant nationally for use by its members. It would also use the propaganda component in its campaign to win passage of the Taft-Hartley Act, which plagues unions to this day.
For a while, then 1988. That's when it really started. And what happened, one of the organizers was sitting in her car outside. And I wondered, I said, what's she doing sitting outside? And it turned out she was one of the organizers trying to get a count of how many cars were going in and out to figure out how many people were employed there. And next thing I know, I got a knock on the door. So I signed my name, and once you sign your name, here comes the boss. He comes out. But he said, oh, you don't think it's fair here? I said, no, I don't think it's fair. Because I said, what you do, you told me I'm a good worker, but I can't get a raise because I'm at the top. And then there are other people I know who tell me that they got a raise. They went beyond the top. So how can you do it for them and not do it for me? He called me into the office and said, oh, it's time for your raise. I said, oh, really? So I sat down, I talked to him. He said, oh, you're a good worker. You do good work, but I can't give you a raise. And I had room to move on the pay scale. And I said, well, why is that? He said, well, you want the union here. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. And, if the union gets in, you'll get your raise. If it doesn't, you won't get anything. So I got so mad that day. I slammed the door. I was hoping I'd break the door. And he came out after. He said, you slammed my door. I said, yeah, and I need to slam it. I said, that's insulting to tell me. I come here every day. I do the work for you. You make the money. And then you tell me I have room on the pay scale to move. I can't get a raise. And we walked into final inspection. That was mainly women, a few men, but final inspection. And oh my God, you'll never believe it. There was this boss, we used to call her the pit bull, because she was so vicious at people. And she was walking around, vote no. She was walking around because they had desks. She was walking around saying, vote no if you want your job. So I pointed to the Labor Department person. I said, that's a boss. And you heard what she said, so she made her go in the office. She said, go in your office and sit down. So she had a lead person walking around telling people, please don't vote for the union. We won't have a job. I said, that's another lead person. And then in the afternoon, it was really scary because we were going down the aisle, and on the intercom, the attorney had bombing. You know how like boom, boom, boom? And that's an old trick that they use, but he played it. And people were running around, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I said, you vote for the union. Don't pay that nonsense any attention. A lot of people never were in the union. And I mean, you do see strikes and you say, well, what's going to happen to me? How am I going to pay my bills? So we had gone to different creditors, made arrangements so that we wouldn't lose our house or apartment. And then what we also did, we set up a strike fund. And we started going to different unions, trying to seek money to help us. And it worked out good. But of course, we had to take the vote. So we sat there, we listened to them. Some of the bosses were good. And then the vice president came in. He said, we don't want you back, but we have to take you back. He said, you're going to come in here and destroy this company. So I stood up and I said, we come back here to work. We're not going to destroy this company. We made this company. Why would we be foolish to destroy it? So he just walked out and everybody started cheering. And then when we were able to go back on the floor, they had security guards. And what they did, you would be sitting down, and you know what they would do? Stand over you. And I said, what are you standing behind me for? Like someone standing behind you. Or if you went to the bathroom. I said, I don't need anyone to walk me to the bathroom. I'm an adult. So they looked at us, and what we did, we went into personnel, and we said, we don't need people to escort us. It was hard, but it was worth it, because I've never been that active in my life. And my father, he had always told me, he was in the union. He said it's always better to have a union than not have a union because you have a voice. You know, we had a lot of racism there because they elected me president, but then some people would say, well, she's black. I'm not going to join the union. She's a black woman. What does she think she is? She's going to leave? I said, well, when you need me, I'll be here. And, you know, that's what some of them would say. You know, she's black. Why should we join the union? But yet, when they need you, here they come. And then, you know, some people think just because you make good money, you don't need a union. I said, you need a voice. You need a voice. You can make all the money you want, but the company can screw you. They can change whatever they want. And what are you going to do if you don't have a union? You're going to fight, and then you're going to be gone? I said, you're stronger as a union, you know, but people don't get it. They think the union's all about striking. I said, it's not. It's that voice that you need. I said, you could be making so much money, but if you don't have that voice, that background, you're done.
My name is Helene Andrews. I am a retired registered nurse and a former member of the American Federation of Teachers. and I have a story to tell about my experience with workplace violence. My hospital did not provide safe working conditions on the psychiatric unit where I cared for patients. During the final 8 years of my employment, I was assaulted 3 times, each requiring major surgery, lengthy rehabilitation, and trauma counseling. As a result of the pattern of workplace injuries at the hospital, OSHA investigated and issued a citation based on the General Duty Clause due to a lack of safety in the workplace. Since my injuries have occurred, I have worked with the union as an advocate for prevention of workplace violence, attending meetings, conferences, and hearings at the state level in Hartford and at the federal level in Washington. The results are encouraging. We now have a bill going through Congress to get an OSHA national standard for workplace violence for healthcare workers, and social service workers. It is gratifying to be part of this most important safety effort.
Well, I think the fight has always been about workers having dignity, being able to take care of their patients and take care of their families. So we operate under the theory and the practice that you have to build an organization of workers to stand up and fight their boss in the workplace, stand up about the types of conditions, whether it's PPE, personal protective equipment, whether it's washcloths, whether it's sheets, whether it's diapers, whatever it may have to be in terms of equipment, and you got to fight them to make a living because they don't want to pay pensions, they don't want to pay health care, and they don't want to pay wages. And we have had innumerable fights, excuse me, over that where the boss is trying to take away what little workers have all the time because that way they can make more money. There were many strikes that took place both to better conditions and to get the union, okay? And there were many strikes that took place because the boss was trying to take stuff away from people. And by engaging in those fights, like the Avery strike, that the strike was about 2 years long, and then it took another 8 years for the labor board to say what we had said, which was that the boss violated the law and had to pay people $2.5 million. It's taken on other things. In many cases, particularly in the state of Connecticut, over a period of time, the fights have been sort of defensive. But we have been able to mobilize our members because they want a better life to stand up and fight for things. And so in certain cases, we've been able to advance their conditions. But the workers aren't being paid anywhere close to what they need really to survive. And they're not paid anywhere by paid, I mean pay and benefits, anywhere near what the job should pay. I mean, these are some of the most important functions in our society, taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. And we think that we should pay people less than we pay for take care of them, take a pick on any other service. I'm not saying that to knock other workers, because I don't believe in the downward pressure. I believe in up. So if somebody else has something and I want it, we should get that. They shouldn't lose it. Our role is to better the conditions and lives of our members. And so we have to be honest with them about what it's about. It's not about me fixing your problem. It's a much bigger fight. And it's about us getting together to see how do we expand our conditions and make demands that are real and always clearly reasonable to me, to better those lives. And if we don't do that, we're not going to make any progress, no matter what industry it's in.
Last year, our historic Stop and Shop strike was an event like no other. It was the pinnacle of my 20-year career in the labor movement, and it inspired me so much and reignited my passion for why I do this work in the first place. You know, the truth is, when 35,000 workers walked off the job all across New England, no one really knew what to expect. But we went out and stepped out in faith, and we were blown away. The support that we received, not just from workers, but from the general public was overwhelming. From the workers at Dunkin' Donuts who were coming by daily, donating donuts and coffee, to the pizza parlor owners who were donating pizza for lunch and dinner every night, or the priests and the rabbis and the clergy that were coming by to offer prayer and words of inspiration. It was amazing. And I am inspired by the work that we did, and it reminds me every day of what can happen when collective action takes hold of the public imagination.
I realized the meaning behind what we were having the strike for. And I had only been working with the company for probably 2 weeks when the strike happened. I work at Stop and Shop, and I just noticed that the worker demands that we were fighting for were actually just to continue to have a better future for employees, meaning like we wanted to have pension plans and health insurance still available and all the things that we were getting before. So I noticed that even though it wasn't something that I yet was eligible for, it was something that I wanted everyone to continue to have. And I knew that if I was going to stay with this company, it would be something that I would want to have. So
basically, I came to this country from Cuba in 1967. I became a teacher, and then I came to Bridgeport. And then in 1977, I was a pre-K teacher at Waltersville School. And then there was a time of the negotiations with the BEA, and we started the strike on September the 6th of 1979 after a year of negotiations.
Mom, why don't you, if you can tell us, what were the things that were important to you that you were willing to be detained for? What were you fighting for?
Well, first of all, it was not only because of the money that we need that. It was because of the children, because of the amount of children that we have in the classrooms. And then it was about many other things that we don't have the materials that we need to teach these children. Oh my God, it was just, I couldn't believe that I was going through this here. Because, even in my country, having a communist country, with all the lack of freedom that we have, I wasn't thinking that I was going to go all through all this year. And it was at the beginning of me becoming a teacher. Because I became a teacher, like I started in 1977. The year that they start with the negotiations.
We saw my mother through a fence. And it was bizarre because, again, my mother is a soft-spoken woman, and everyone there are teachers. And teachers are about children in classrooms, and they're standing there behind a fence with, I think there were now I know there would have been probably state troopers, but people in uniform keeping them detained as if they were criminals. They were set up in barracks. So my mom can tell you stories about what the barrack experience was like. So these are teachers who are used to being in classrooms with children being sent to barracks with people in uniform keeping them there. And I remember my mom at one point saying, I don't understand why they have these men in uniform trying to keep us in when we're not trying to leave. We're going to be here till this gets resolved.
I feel like without the union, we were not able to get nothing that we got. It was because of the union, because of the executive board, they were excellent, and because of Jeff Rosenberg, who was the union server representative. He used to come almost every day to visit us in jail. I'm a hero because I was in jail. That's what my fellow teachers, they say. They're proud of me, and then, that's the way I feel. To me, this is part of my family. And to me, talking about the unions, that means that all that we have the better life that we have is because of the unions.
We've had a long and storied career in history at Danbury Hospital. In fact, when we first started in 1973 to talk about a union, and we had our first contract in 1976, we weren't called a union. We were the Danbury Hospital Nurses Association. We organized under Connecticut Nurses Association. Unfortunately, when I took the presidency in January 2000, we changed that because I wanted to everybody know that we were a union, first and foremost, and very proud of that. It took us some time, but we realized the benefits of having a union. We were able to be equal at negotiations. We helped get staffing resolutions, and we have a labor management committee that we can resolve some of the issues. And that was all because of the union. We're very happy to and proud of our representation up in Hartford. We've worked for staffing, language, and bills. We've worked for workplace violence language. We've worked to protect nurses' practice issues, and we've worked to protect workers' comp and other issues that impact all workers and our families.
Getting through the COVID pandemic was horrible, but knowing our role in being in a union and having protection, we were able to come to the table, make sure we had proper PPE for all of our nurses, as well as the N95s, which are definitely a requirement to avoid the COVID virus.
Danbury, Connecticut holds a special place in America's labor history. At the beginning of the 20th century, members of the Hatters Union struck the powerful Danbury hatting industry. The workers battled together for better working conditions and safety on the job. As so many of us know, mercury is extensively used in making hats. Workplace exposure to mercury caused workers to lose their hair and lose their teeth, and mercury also caused disabling bodily tremors and other terrible effects. The workers fought together against the vicious Mad Hatter syndrome. Then as now, at the big bargaining table and in the world of politics, we fight so that all who go to work return home safely. Bound by one of our great mottos, an injury to one is an injury to all, the Danbury chapter has always worked together with our union locals and community friends for the betterment of Greater Danbury. Our chapter includes a broad spectrum of the labor movement. Our chapter is very active politically at the local, state, and federal level, and especially in Hartford. We remain vigilant in protecting our accomplishments. On a personal note, sometimes people ask what it's like being a good trade unionist. Much of our daily activity is a roller coaster ride, most often speeding downward. Possibility of layoffs, a member gets disciplined, maybe a member even gets fired. But then you jump in to help, and you win the fight, and the roller coaster is flying upward, and the world is well off, at least for the moment. So keep on fighting. As President John F. Kennedy said, the AFL-CIO is the people's lobby. In solidarity, thank you very much, John McCarthy.
Why we need to be in the union is because we want equality, we want respect, we want to have to say in the workplace. We don't want someone to tell us what to do and never to be asked questions. So that is when the union comes into place. When we are able to ask questions and tell them, listen, this doesn't go this way. You must negotiate with us. You must meet on the table so we can have a democratic way of doing businesses. And let me tell you something. The first time I met with a terrible CEO that we had, I told the first meeting to him, I said, I want transparency, I want justice, I want equality, and I want a fair deal. He laughed on me. Let me tell you something. 5 years later, he is no longer here, and I'm still here. Because you know what? I know my limitations, and I told him, my limitations do not define who I am. At the end of the day, I'm still here, and he had to leave. And listen, I can go on and on, but I want to wish you guys, and to all of us, quite frankly, happy Labor Day, and thank to everybody that died and fought for us to have this right to form unions. And we must keep united, and we must defeat the oppressors, and we must fight for a political justice and economic justice and a social justice. and make us our unions stronger than ever before.
Brothers and sisters, I'm Shelley Davis, president of the Eastern Connecticut Area Labor Federation. We hope you have enjoyed these powerful stories from our fellow Connecticut workers. Labor Day represents the solidarity we share. The fight for workers' rights remain ongoing and is more important now than it has been in recent memory. We invite you to take action by checking your voter registration at ballotready.org. And also sign up for our email list to be included in future events. Thank you for sharing this time with us. We appreciate each of you. Be safe, be well. Happy Labor Day.